Hello YouTube, this is Jeff Beers from 40 Finance, and today I want to talk about one of my favorite ETFs and a big part of my stock portfolio, which is the FDN ETF, which is the first Dow Jones Internet Index Fund. If you're like me and you believe that technology, e-commerce, and the internet is the brightest spots to come for investing in the stock market, then this is definitely one that you'll want to try out. The FDN runs off the Dow Jones Internet Composite Index, and it's designed to represent the largest and most actively traded stocks of US companies in the internet industry. And as you'll see, that's a pretty broad swath, the internet industry. It doesn't just keep you into technology only. It's just companies that have the brightest future from an online perspective. And I think that's why I like this stock so much. FDN is a market cap weighted ETF. So the bigger the player, the more that they hold. This is a listing of the total holdings. They actually don't all fit on here. You know, some of the names that interest you, if you're talking about Amazon being number one, obviously they have a lot of weight in the internet. You got Facebook, Salesforce, Google, PayPal, Netflix, Twitter, eBay, TD Ameritrade, E-Trade, Akamai, GoDaddy, TripAdvisor, LogMeIn, Snap, New Relic. All of these companies have a strong tie to the internet, but they're not necessarily all like social media, things of that nature. And again, this is just a small swath of the 41 that's held. But if you believe that the internet is going to provide more and more transactional power across the world, as I do, and you're mostly bullish on United States companies, then the FDN is a good representation of that. So you're not going to see some of the China ones like Alibaba, JD.com, etc. And it's not that I don't believe that those companies will have a strong future. It's just, it kind of goes with the Warren Buffett mentality of bet on America, and that's exactly what you're doing with the companies held in here. As far as performance, the FDN, if you go back, it's done very well. This is the calendar year to date, or year total, so just for that 1 year. And you can compare it. This is FDN versus S&P. S&P 1500 Information Technology, and then the S&P 500. So you see that this fund started about 2008, and that's a bad year to start from the stock market. So a lot of everyone lost in 2008. But you start coming up here to the more modern future, and you're looking at 2012, for example, is when things start to turn around. FDN had a 21% return, while the S&P had a 16%. You skip a couple years. 2014, it did less than the S&P. 2015, it did 21%, while the S&P did 1.3%. 2016, the S&P won. 2017, the FDN won, and year to date, as in 2018, FDN's winning 28%, 29% really, to 11% for the S&P 500. So, in my opinion, this trend of beating the S&P will only continue for internet stocks. Obviously, the more of them that grow, the more the S&P is going to be comprised of internet stocks. But I personally am not too interested in large consumer packaged companies, Procter & Gamble, etc. It's not that those aren't good companies. It just, for me and the returns that I'm trying to get at my age, I'm more interested in a little bit of risk, if you will, for bigger returns. Now, this chart here shows the total returns. So instead of individual years, it takes basically a set amount of, this would be like if you invested $10,000 in 2008 across the S&P, the FDN, and the think it's NASDAQ I put in here. Yeah, I think NASDAQ is orange, NASDAQ composite. The red or the pinkish one is S&P, and then the blue is the FDN. So if you look at just total returns from the stretch of about 2009 all the way to 2000, we're deep into 2018 at this point, you're looking at a substantial difference in what you would have got back for if you invested the same amount of money in FDN, S&P 500, or the NASDAQ composite. So this is kind of what I'm most interested in with FDN, and this is actually a trend that I see happening through the future. So again, it's a big part. It's over 25% of my stock portfolio. It also gives me an opportunity to invest in a lot of different companies without having $1 million worth to invest. So currently I'm right about the 20 to 25,000 mark of net investments. So at that level, while you can pick and choose little stocks, sometimes an ETF is a great way to build a foundation for companies you believe in until you can invest more and then start picking off the individual companies that you think will beat even an ETF like the FDN. So the one thing, flipping back, just to note that I didn't include when I covered this slide initially, was the Morningstar rating of 5 stars, which kind of takes into consideration the expense ratio, the performance, etc. This fund was rated 4 stars over 3 years, 4 stars over 5 years, and 5 stars over 10 years. One of the things that I didn't cover earlier with the FDN is the expense ratio. Currently, the expense ratio is 0.53%. which is going to be more than a Vanguard fund. So there is definitely some give or take, but if you really look at the expense ratios of ETFs at 0.53, you're talking about basically $5 for every $1,000 invested per year. So on a $10,000 investment, you're going to give them $530 a year. And if things continue to hold the way that they do, so with your $530 on a $10,000 investment, you might think, is that high, is that low? I can tell you that it's about average for an ETF, if not good. But that $500 that you pay, if you can turn it into a return of 454%, which I'm not saying that's going to happen every year, but if you invested over 10 years and got 454%, then your 0.53% expense ratio is really nothing to worry about, and you probably laugh at it, to be honest with you, while your friends invested in a Vanguard S&P, which basically has 0 expenses, but you'd be up here, they'd be down here over the last 10 years. So hopefully that gives you some context. Obviously, the past is not a guarantee for the future. It does give you a little bit of a benchmark on what those expenses are. Hope you enjoyed this review of the FDN ETF. Please subscribe if you're interested in more videos like these. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.